Hi, today we're focusing on part one of healing from emotional and verbal abuse. Um, while this has been a difficult process to navigate through, in the sense that this is pretty organic, I don't really know what I'm doing other than sharing with you exactly what I know that I went through in order to get healing. And it's also revealing places in my life that I'm not really healed or fully healed yet. And that's been wonderful because it's a challenge and it allows me to continue growing. And of course, I know that in many ways, but I mean just in these ways that I've been talking about from past abuse. Um, and I really am of the belief that if people get healed, it can only make the world a better place. So I really want to help to the best of my ability by being as specific and helpful as possible through this process. So because of that, I'm not sure. I meet with sessions also, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to meet with sessions and do this daily. But that's okay, because either way, I can tell you that even if it's not every day, it will be every other day, so it will continue to happen. And I'm also really excited that this is helping. And I'm going to keep it up for as long as there is a need and people have a desire to hear about it. So, on that note, let's get started. So, I'm going to start with the areas that we pointed out in the first part of discussing how I had been affected as a child. So, as far as thinking my feelings didn't matter, I had to start practicing that they did. This means I couldn't think from the perspective of that particular feeling that my feelings didn't matter. I had to actually start telling myself that my feelings did matter and putting it into practice. That's tough, putting something into practice. Because the first thing I learned is that I didn't know what my feelings really were because they kept revealing themselves as anger. So I got this graph, and hopefully I'll be able to include it today, but if not, I will eventually include it. It was this graph that had a picture of an angry face in the middle, and then it had other possible emotions on the outside of what I could be feeling. So I had to be really intentional in this, and every time I would feel angry, I would intentionally force myself to find out if anger was the core issue, or if maybe my feelings were hurt, or I felt dismissed, or I felt hurt or irritated, or obviously I don't have a huge vocabulary when it comes to emotions because I'm still learning my own. So I'm going to try to include that for those of you who struggle with the same thing. This also meant that I had to tell people how I was feeling, and I'm going to tell you, it does not mean that people are going to be okay with what you're saying, and it does not mean that people are going to agree with what you're saying. That is still not the gauge for deciding whether or not you express how you feel. You may not get a result from it. Like, people may not agree. They may yell at you. There could be all kinds of responses to it, but it does not negate the fact that you need to express your emotions. Like, they have to be expressed. Over time, you'll learn healthier ways to do it, but how are you going to learn if you never try? Also, the process will take time. And you may lose people around you. And even find that you don't want to be around certain people because of how they ultimately have been making you feel. Because guess what? You being the type of person, or me being that's what I'll say, me being the kind of person that never cared about my emotions, I tended to surround myself with people that didn't care about my emotions. So it took a little bit of time for me to learn how to express myself. And sometimes some of the people that were around when you didn't care about your emotions are willing to learn and change and start caring about your emotions. So this is not to say that everyone around you is going to be the same. And it isn't like there is no set rule, because people are individual and we are fluid and we change and things are different. So I can't just tell you it's always going to be a particular way, but I can tell you what I did. And I try to keep going back to that because I need you to understand that this is my journey, but I have gotten healed. So I'm just trying to share that part of it. I also had to stop caring about other people's feelings above my own. Now, I am not saying that that's the way it should be or should always be or anything like that. I am discussing this from the perspective of a person who I never took care of my own emotions. So my gauge was like this, so I had to bring it down to where it was sort of on the same level with other people at least. That also took time. Because there are times that other people's emotions do outweigh your own. The ill, babies, things like that. Like you're not going to go into your baby's room and be like, I'm having a really bad day. I don't feel like feeding you. Don't you even care how I feel? Obviously, that's not going to be something that we can go through. And you're going to learn how to express that in a healthy way. And like I did, And when I figured that my emotions were important, I started to learn the healthy way of expressing them, because sometimes it's not going to be through word. Sometimes it's going to be through exercise or just getting some of that frustration out, whatever that thing may be. So I mentioned, let me say this first. I had to kind of have a healthy gauge to know how to verify whether or not someone else's emotion should be above mine and all that, because at the time I had no idea. So I really went from one extreme to the other. Either everyone's emotions were more important, or no one's emotions were as important as mine. And neither are true. So I had to kind of have a gauge for how to find a healthy way to figure out what should work and what shouldn't. So this is how it kind of looked. 1, I practiced saying how I felt at least once a day, or I practiced saying it if I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like if it was an emotion that I couldn't let go of or a feeling I couldn't let go of, I would express it. And when I say express it, I'm not just saying that I expressed it to the person. Sometimes I expressed it through screaming, just in a room into a pillow. Sometimes I punched a pillow. Sometimes, I know my stuff's going to lean more towards anger. Just know that my examples are going to be more like that. Or sometimes I ate my emotions. That's not a healthy one, but sometimes I did do that. It really needs to not be going in. It needs to be going out. So I also pray a lot. And prayer, some people call it meditation, or maybe you see it as two different things. I do. I see meditation and prayer as two separate things, but whatever you call it, I spend a lot of time, and I currently spend a lot of time in prayer, releasing some of those things, because I feel good about it. And like I said, this was about recognizing that your feelings mattered. So I started to learn normal ways of responding in how I felt. So how did I find that normal? Books and healthy people. I started with the books. I started with a gauge that were books that kind of had, some reviews and people that had said something about it. And then I started to be able to watch the result of other people's lives. And so I was able to see that I could probably follow what they were doing. I looked for a place or people that would help navigate through normal, and a place being, like I said, like a book or something like that, or same thing, people, healthy people. I also got healthy in who we are. We're 3 parts: body, soul, and spirit. And our soul is like our mind, our emotions, our ideas, and our spirit is like our creativity and our purpose and our passion. And so I tried to start learning how to become more healthy in those ways. So while I am lax in many, and I am not telling you I have it all together, I am telling you in the not just ways that I have used, but others have expressed has helped them. And it was how I ate, exercise, sleeping habits. That one I got down. I sleep 8 hours a night is awesome. What I watch and what I listen to, the music I listen to, I have a direct connection with God. And that, I know that sounds funny. That probably makes me sound a little cuckoo. But what I mean by that is when I pray to God. I don't pray to a person, and I don't need another person to help me pray. It's wonderful to have support in prayer. I am not making it an either or thing, but I am telling you that until you have a direct relationship with God yourself, like your own concept of what that is, it's always going to be filtered through someone else's ideas. And that's also not healthy. You want to have your own knowledge of what you believe. Next week, we will be talking about spiritual abuse, and hopefully that'll clear some of that up. Also, I want to go back to what I was watching and listening to and things like that. You have to remember that whatever you put into your ears and your eyes is what's going to come out of you and what's going to settle in your body. Much like whatever you eat is going to settle in your hips and your butt and your stomach. It really doesn't work any differently. So you have to be careful about what I had to be careful about what I watched and listened to. And to this day, I try to be pretty careful about those kinds of things. I practiced watching how I expressed my emotions and whether it needed to be said, instead of focusing on what others said or expressed. And honestly, that was hard and is hard, because it's hard to, sometimes I'm going to say sometimes, even though it's more than sometimes, it's really hard to keep my mouth shut. Because a lot of times it just doesn't need to be said. And because remember, what does my opinion really matter? Not my feelings, but my opinion. It was just that I hadn't been heard for so long. So I think this is my theory on it. I hadn't been heard so long. So I was just willy-nilly giving my opinion in hopes of being validated, which means I needed to find a place that my validation could come from. I picked to have my validation come from the Bible as God's word. You do not have to do that, nor am I pushing my agenda on anyone. But the reason that it is what I chose is because it never changes. And people can translate it, say whatever they want about it, express it however they want to express it. And it doesn't change. However, you need to pick a place or a person that you are consistently content with being validated from. Some people choose themselves, other people choose other people or ideas, but if you choose nothing, then you will be validated by nothing. Taking care of whether my feelings mattered or not seemed to take care of most of the results of feeling small, unwanted, and unloved. Another thing that helped me a lot was realizing and embracing the truth that I could treat others the way I wanted to be treated, and over time, it mattered less how I was treated because I had a goal of giving instead of receiving. It makes the world a better place, and at least for me, made me feel like I had purpose, and still makes me feel that way. I also had to and have had to stay in touch with my feelings because I still fall prey to believing everything I think or feel. Expressing myself in a healthy way, like through prayer, exercise, even time to cool down, friends, it helps me to realize if what I am expressing comes from a place that I want to share the information or not. Because here's the thing, you can always say what you think, and you can always give your opinion, and you can always express yourself if you want to. like it's a free country, as they say. But you know, everything costs. Everything comes at a cost. You just have to decide whether that cost is worth it. I have a mantra, if that's okay to call it that, that I do not know everything. And everyone does not need to know what I think unless I am actually being asked. And then I will make sure what I feel before I express it. I mean, you asked how I did it, and that's how I did it. So as far as anxiety is concerned, because I mentioned that I was going to talk about that, I only learned that I had anxiety about 5 years ago, and it has been an ongoing process. The biggest thing I have learned in dealing with anxiety is that you do have to deal with it. It isn't something that just tends to go away. It doesn't own my everyday life like it used to, but I still have times I suffer, and I mean suffer, okay? And those of you who have anxiety know exactly what I mean. And there are other times that I can work through it pretty easily. I have mentioned before that I occasionally use CBD and other more organic ways of dealing with it. I do pray, I am careful what I watch and listen to, and I do have faith. This may be something that many of you will ask how that helps, but for me it helps because I have someone that is bigger than me, and that in itself is better than relying on myself or any other human. I find that belief in something helps me find purpose, which reduces my anxiety because the future isn't in my hands anyway. I can't control much of anything, so one of my biggest ways of dealing with anxiety is staying in the right now, this second to each second, because it's the only time that I can do anything about is right now and right now. I have no grasp on the past or future, so now is all I have. Okay, so being gullible or literal. I am not very gullible now, but I am still very literal. The way I became less gullible is that I don't really care if I'm being lied to because it isn't my problem anymore. I can't live thinking everyone is lying to me or that no one is lying to me because people are people and they do lie. And sometimes they, sometimes they lie and sometimes they tell the truth. I know this because I did, and I'm people. If people want to lie to me, the consequences sometimes do fall on me because I listen. But what I do differently now is assume that I don't know the whole of the story of the other person and I just let it go. Then I give them their problem back because letting it go means it doesn't own me. As far as being literal, that depends on the situation. For when I'm being literal. So I am still working on this one, and I am really not even sure whether it is good or bad for me. I would like to hear your thoughts on that. The last one is keeping secrets. I keep a lot of secrets, which is fine with me because those secrets, they're not mine. I don't keep my secrets anymore. I am free of them all, as far as I know. If something comes up, I release it. If my secret crosses over with someone else's secret, I only tell my part of the story, but I do not keep anything to myself anymore. Especially the things that cause me pain or suffering. Does that mean I just go around telling everybody everything? No. Because like I said before, it's highly unlikely that anyone cares or wants to hear everything that I have to say. And I don't really need everyone's validation or, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't need them to validate me, and I don't really care if they reject me. So how I navigate in the telling of my stories is based on whether or not I feel or I think it will help others. And if I need accountability in getting something dealt with, then I do surround myself with people that I tell them what I'm going through. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, and we will continue part 2 of this tomorrow. We may have a part 3 because it's 20 minutes now, and I still have a second part to just this. So we'll probably have 3 parts to this, and I'll keep you updated on that release as soon as I know if there will be a third one. As promised, I will continue to discuss how healing took place and what I still struggle with. I will continue to be open and as honest as possible so that we can continue sharing in this process of healing. So thank you for listening and helping me and others pay it forward.